So today I'm going to be talking specifically about Xamarin and Xamarin.Forms. Now, it can get a bit hairy at some points, and it can be quite difficult in others. But yeah, so let's crack on. So first of all, a bit of shameless self-promotion. My name is James Mallon. I'm a Xamarin developer at Ziglu with Bart. As you can clearly see, I like doggies, drinking beer, and computers. I'm a very simple man like that. Software engineering has been my passion, always has been. I've been programming since I was 9 years old, so that's roughly 2 years now. I've been working with Xamarin for the last 4 to 5 years, and what do I think about it after all this time? So in the early days I was very conflicted. In Xamarin's version 2 and upwards, 2 to 3. It took some time for me to really want it. After all of the different Visual Studio glitches, after all of the different individual Xamarin bugs that I've encountered over the years, I'm sure many of you have. Just out of interest, how many of you here are Xamarin developers? So yeah, so majority of us, brilliant, right. I mean, to be honest, as long as you guys have been around the scene as much as I have over the last few years, I think you'll all kind of feel my pain when I say it has been difficult at some points. So one of the reasons I'm giving this talk, and one of the things I'm doing at the moment, is because I've taken so much in the last 4 to 5 years from the open source community, and I have given absolutely nothing back. I've been your typical selfish, disgusting developer sitting in his bedroom, coding away, and doing nothing for the community. So one of the things I'm working on at the moment is Xam.Beautify. So it's going to be a collection of loads of different components that are actually fully customizable from the forms level. So often, I mean, a lot of Xamarin developers here will probably know the pain that every single time you do a new project for a new client, or on your original project you want to make an enhancement, you've got to create a custom renderer for your label, or you've got to create a custom renderer for your button, and you've got to keep customizing that. I want to be able to create a dependency that everyone can rely on, that's going to be updated constantly, that any bug fixes are going to be answered properly, unlike a lot of other dependencies, which I'll come on to in a bit. And I want to create something that allows people with maybe less native knowledge to really do a deep dive into native level of Xamarin. So that's what I've started working on at the moment, and hopefully you'll see kind of small package updates over the next kind of few years probably, while Xamarin's still alive and living and breathing. But yeah, so on to working life. So working life has been fantastic at the moment. I've been working in a startup. Some of you may be accustomed to the startup life, others maybe not, but I can tell you one thing, it's very dynamic, and it's exciting. So the company I work for is a company called Ziglu. So what we're doing effectively is for users to be able to exchange cryptocurrency and fiat currency and cryptocurrency, cryptocurrency and cryptocurrency at the touch of a button. It's really, really simple, and as the tagline says, any currency, anywhere, anyway. And that really is what Ziglu has to offer. At Ziglu, I work with a bunch of geniuses, not you, Bart. No, I'm joking. Bart is a genius in his own right as well. And it is just a fantastic place to live. Not live, well, it feels like living sometimes, but work. But yeah, moving on. So what am I even talking about when I say beautiful? I mean, it sounds like I'm being a bit of a snowflake. From a programmer's perspective, how can we make the end user's experience beautiful? And I really, really do mean this, because I've seen some terrible apps over the years developed in several different frameworks, and it doesn't seem to matter what framework you develop your app in. It all comes down to who's making it. So I want to kind of touch on that for people in the Xamarin community. So first of all, users, can't live with them, can't live without them. It's quite true. I'm pretty sure all of us wouldn't have a job if we didn't have any users to download our apps. But users also really demand and have high expectations when you've got competition like Deliveroo or Uber, things that have changed people's lives on a daily basis. How can we possibly compete with that thing? So I want to talk about Xamarin, how to optimize your apps to get to that kind of native level, to get to that level of performance, so that we can all kind of collaborate. And I also wanted to kind of light fire under everyone's arses, if you don't mind saying, to get the open source community going, because I've seen a very minimal contribution from a lot of people in the Xamarin space. And I personally decided to take a stand and start doing something about it. So why am I talking about this? As I mentioned, the whole open source thing, but also I've worked with a variety of developers in the past, and who really do not have their eyes pinned on the end user. At the end of the day, we're developing a product, or we're developing for a client that's going to be used by users. I think it's important for us all to just remember that this is something that we are putting in the hands of a user, and to really kind of focus on that instead of just focusing purely on functionality or the speed of the network connection. So, before I get into a deep dive on Xamarin.Forms specifics, I want to talk about more general aspects of Xamarin and just general software engineering. I mean, this first slide touches on just something that should be a general software engineering principle, but I have three main priorities during development. All three are of the same level of priority, but I keep all of them in my head at the same time while I'm working through all the different work on the side. The first thing is stability. So does the app crash every 2 seconds? If it does, fix it. The second one is functionality. So if your app doesn't do what it says it's going to do, then you're pretty screwed as a business. That's just how it works. And the third one is user experience. So this is what I'm mainly going to be talking about today. User experience. How do the users use the app? Is it fast, sleek, smooth? Is it nice to use? Is it friendly? Do you have unicorns flying across the screen? That kind of thing. So, the second thing I want to talk about, which a lot of people it surprises me. I didn't know that right until Bart kind of introduced it to me. I couldn't believe how much my code improved after using Rider. So I love Microsoft and I love everything it has to offer, but Rider has really won it for me in terms of an IDE. Now, if you're currently using Visual Studio, has anyone here used Rider for Xamarin development? You two do. Who uses Visual Studio for Xamarin development? Okay, well, I can, obviously using conjunction, perfect, you need to, you know why. Right, so I cannot advise you enough to use Rider. First of all, this especially, I'm not sponsored by JetBrains or Rider in any sort of way. This is personally from my own experience. Everything I say is my own words, my own thoughts. So Rider has to offer solution-wide analysis. So whilst programming, Rider scans your solution for null reference exceptions. You could be writing a switch statement, it will tell you to include all the extra things. You'll be writing an if statement and it will put it all on one line for you. It's all these small things that add up. And it's super quick. It's not like Visual Studio where you drag and drop something and it crashes and falls over and your computer catches fire. But it is to be used in conjunction with Visual Studio. Visual Studio wins it for me in a couple of areas. Rider, it takes about 98%, but Visual Studio I still use for things like importing resources. I can't even think of things.
Debug.
Huh?
For debug.
For debug, yeah, of course, yeah. And it's got a better compiler. It's nice. So yeah, lightweight. So Rider is very lightweight. Visual Studio, unless you have a very fast computer, starts up in quite a long time. Well, historically anyway. I know Visual Studio 2019 there has been massive improvements. But, that being said, Rider just tops it for me. So for anyone who's using Visual Studio right now, honestly, your development experience will seriously be enhanced if you just have a little check out of Rider. There's a 14-day trial or something like that. Use reference code. No, I'm joking. Huh?
The Visual Studio plugin which makes it slower.
Yeah.
Makes Visual Studio slower.
Yeah.
Oh, you can use Rider now.
Yeah. So I want to talk about dependencies. Sorry, go back. I want to talk about dependency-free solutions. This is something that I had in my mind, and I can actually remember my interview for the place I currently work at. And when I was told that the solution was aimed to be dependency-free, my eyes lit up. I came from a place where we had something along the lines of 60 or 70 dependencies. And because of that, there are loads of runtime exceptions that we encountered that we literally just had no idea where it came from. You just get some spurious error and you just literally want to smash your head through the table. But the first thing I want to touch on is not all that glitters is gold. I've seen so many packages released for Xamarin.Forms and Xamarin in general that claim to do all these amazing things that look like they do, and they look amazing, and they actually do these amazing things, but the problem is that they're not maintained. Every update of Xamarin.Forms is an issue. It's just like, yeah. You do see stuff like that, and it does look fine. But when you include it in your solution, that's when you run into problems. And it's only through spending years of using Xamarin that you do really kind of learn this. So the second thing is, where does it end? When you add one weird third-party solution that some guy in Romania or has made, what do you do after that? Like, where does it end? You keep adding them, and there's no kind of barrier to stop you from doing that once you've added one. We have vested dependencies. Everyone here in this room is a clever, able computer scientist to some degree. Adding every single dependency in my mind is just kind of lazy, and you're better than that. So take back control of your code base. So now I want to touch on and do a bit of a deep dive into the stuff that I have really found interesting, kind of hot topics for me in Xamarin. So anyone who's been using Xamarin since Xamarin 2 and beyond has known that there's been a huge problem with startup times, specifically on Android, which is the main one I want to talk about today. So Android really suffers, and due to the reason that it uses JIT as a compilation process. So what is just-in-time compilation? So to have a quick walkthrough, essentially what happens is you compile all your high-level code, that gets compiled into an intermediate language. When the app starts up on your phone, it actually then compiles it at runtime into bytecode. Now, obviously, that being said, that has a massive overhead in kind of the time it takes, which is understandable. So I have no idea why they use JIT in the first place. But what can we do to speed it up? So AOT, I'm sure, who knows about AOT here, who's using Xamarin? So you know about it, great. You know about it? Yeah. So AOT compilation is ahead of time compilation. So what we're doing here is instead of compiling it to the intermediate language and then running it on the phone, we're actually saying, okay, no, we're going to compile this straight into the native bytecode and have it in our assemblies. Another thing, so this is probably something that I see touched on in the forums and everything like that, is you need enterprise license for AOT with Xamarin. Now, this may be true, but enterprise licenses cost £5,000 a year. So what a load of bollocks that is. Because I mean, if you've got 100 developers in your community, you're paying $500,000 towards Microsoft for that. So this isn't sneaky, this is something that Microsoft offer, and Microsoft are, I'm sure, very aware of it. But who here uses App Center for the builds and deployment system, Crashlytics or anything like that? App Center, currently all of the servers have MS Build versions that have enterprise licenses on them. There you go, problem solved. Change in your CS project file, change it to AOT assemblies equals true, and jobs are good. Push it up to build. So now we're going to have a look at some AOT/JIT builds in action. So sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. Might just restart the slide. And it broke. On the Wi-Fi, on the interweb. Great. Give me a second. It'd be unfair of me to not have any technical difficulties this evening. Right, let's start again.
The Google Slides.
Yeah, Google Slides. Infamous. God. It's just not happening. And nothing's right. Right, well, I'm going to have to show you from the actual slide itself.
Do you want to use a different Wi-Fi?
I don't know what to call it. I mean, it's not worth digging into. I can just play you the video from here. So. Of course. I know. So for some reason it isn't working. So I'm going to quickly move on to my phone's Wi-Fi. To be this.
I was going to say there's one called Cannon Street Guest.
Yeah, I'll give it a try. See what happens. And right, start up with the previous slide. Up. There we go. So as you can see on the left, you've got your AOT compilation, and on your right, you have just-in-time compilation. And it's pretty evident from the get-go that AOT compilation is much, much faster. But that is not just the only benefit of AOT compilation. I've seen everywhere on forums, left, right, and center, that it says Xamarin AOT compilation may improve your runtime performance. I think, well, an absolute load of bollocks. I know for a fact that it improves your runtime performance. Sometimes it is noticeable by eye. But I don't know where this debate's come from, where the AOT compilation doesn't improve your runtime performance. It does, and I will vouch for the fact that over AOT compiling 5 or 6 different apps, it definitely does. So I want to quickly take time to talk about the negatives of AOT compilation. So one of the things that happens is your APK size increases. It's usually between the range from what I can see between 30 and 50%, which is quite a lot if you've got a very large APK size anyway. But I mean, I think the benefits in this case just really outweigh the positives. I don't think there's anything to compete. You can try and reduce your APK size, by manually looking at your resources using vectors, all that kind of jazz. I'm sure you're all very aware of, to kind of balance this out. But it is, in my mind, a must-have feature. So now I want to talk about reducing startup times for both platforms. So one thing to note is that iOS is already AOT compiled. That's the out of the box is AOT compiled. But what we can do on both platforms is using LLVM. Now it has completely gone out of my mind what LLVM stands for, but I can tell you that it converts the AOT assemblies into native code. And what this does is that it's literally everything in bytecode as soon as you do that. So this can, in some ways, I think, reduce your APK size. But I'm not too certain on that. But you can play around with these configuration options in your projects and just see how it pans out. So being sensible. Xamarin.Forms can be heavy duty a lot of the time. The initialization itself on even fast code takes 1 to 2 seconds, which I know sounds small, but it's not in my mind, if I'm aiming for perfection. So not running intensive tasks during startup, not initializing too many libraries, not doing stupid things that we can all avoid and we all know we can avoid. So really have a look at your code whenever you get the chance and refactor it if you can. So cheeky tricks. This is actually my favorite cheeky trick that I've ever seen any company do. And I love it. I think I'll put it in. I haven't actually ever implemented it, but I love Deliveroo's model for doing it. So if we start, so this is just post startup, okay? If you look at the screen here, you can see that it is actually, so after you see the splash screen on the Android device, it actually just shows, while it's initializing everything else, it's doing its network calls, it's doing everything it has to, it just shows a static image that looks like the UI is loading. And it has some sort of GIF animation that loads all these kind of things here that you'll see in a second. So you can see a slight slither over there. And then the real UI kicks in. And I think, what absolute genius came up with that? I think that's I think that's brilliant. You're initializing everything, and no one even knows. That's perfect. So yeah, that's everything I have on startup times. You can ask questions at the end if there's anything else. I mean, I have some deep knowledge on it. But also another point, I want to take this time to say that I will be following up all of these things. I want to look at it from a high level because I think the message is often lost. When I'm writing, when I go deep dive into code and how these things work. I'll be writing blog posts that really do dive into the deep of all this kind of different stuff. So moving on. So Xamarin native bindings. What's this? What I do? So these are. So who knows who's a Xamarin developer? Who's familiar with Xamarin native bindings? Yep. You did, right. So here's a perfect opportunity. I didn't know about them until a year or two ago. So what are Xamarin native bindings, first of all? They allow you to use dependencies that are available for Android and iOS specifically. So people release packages for the native platforms, and you can actually hook into this. You can hook directly into this, and I've got a demonstration showing you there in a second. You can expose the native library generated by, for example, in this case, Intercom. So who's familiar with Intercom in the rest of the case? Anyone know what Intercom is? It's just a messaging thing for customer support. So you can message one person or another, and you can message customer support and say, hey, I've got this problem, and that will link to the backend. Unfortunately, Intercom do not provide a Xamarin.Forms package. So in this case, we had to make Xamarin bindings for this. So by doing this, it was kind of a big learning process on how to do it properly. But I think the one thing that you should keep in mind is when you do have a look, and really do have a look up at Xamarin bindings, when you come to it, the main thing that I found was your approach. And it's as simple as saying, only expose what you have to. It's an absolute minefield down there when you're dealing with AARs and jars and .framework files from iOS, and you have to look at all of the different APIs that they offer. If you are only using selected functionality, only expose that, because otherwise you're going to be ending yourself in a big mess. So let's have a quick look at this point at what a Xamarin bindings looks like. So, as you can see here, this is my message with Paul, our customer service support. And this is all native code that's running within Xamarin.Forms, native iOS code. Essentially what happens is you call from Xamarin.Forms over a bridge into the native code, you say do this and it does it. And it runs all within its own little bubble, which is great. So you can communicate with people like that. So the next thing is what can you do to reduce your build time? Obviously, if you've got loads and loads of different packages inside of your Xamarin project, you're going to be looking at, I think at the moment, our build time at one point got to 16 minutes, which isn't acceptable from a clean build. So what can we do to reduce that? Easy peasy, we can just cook them all into DLLs. What do I mean by that? We can literally take your Android, for example, if you're using Android, you can take your bindings projects, you can build them directly into DLLs and then just reference the DLLs from your actual project. No biggie, all done. So, the last couple of things I want to talk about is FF image loading and caching and downsampling. Now, who's aware of FF image loading for Xamarin? I'm sure everyone's used it here at some point in their lives. Now, this is one of the dependencies and one of the packages that I would say, yeah, okay, use it, because people bloody maintain it, and they are responsive to bugs and things like that. So FF image loading, I would say, yeah, fair game. Now, what FF image loading can offer you is inside of the package, they can offer caching and downsampling. Now, what does this mean? So caching, easy peasy. If we're loading resources from the website, from our server, over and over again, we don't want to be using up our users' data all the time. And also, we don't want to have the overhead of network times, of images lagging and everything like that. We want it to be as responsive as possible because we're focusing on our app. So you can cache the images, and whenever it's time to display that image again, and it has the URL inside of the cached image component, then what will happen essentially is it will just pull it from the cache into the URL. And the best thing about it is cached image is a direct replacement for Xamarin.Forms image source. Yeah. Downsampling. So downsampling is a huge problem for earlier versions of Android and early versions of iOS. Why? Because an iPhone SE cannot render a 4K image on its phone and not have a lot of jank that come with it. Now, if you've got a web server that only has very high resolution images, and say, for example, the network speed's very fast, and you haven't optimized the images dependent on phone resolution, you just want to use one set image, you can use downsampling within FF image loading, which essentially means that you can kind of compress the resolution to a point where it will be visible on the screen to a high degree, but it's not going to be trying to display a 4K image on a 320 by 420 screen. Last part is optimizing your XAML. So this doesn't mean that this is more to draw your attention back to optimization of your XAML. It doesn't need much introduction. There's so many guides out there on the internet on how to do this properly. I just wanted to really kind of refocus towards it because I've seen it a lot. I myself have written Scrabbly XAML.
Yes,
and I do think that it's important. Yeah. So when I talk about Scrabbly XAML, I'm talking about ridiculously nested layouts. You've got everything beyond that. You shouldn't be nesting stack layouts that are stack layouts that are scroll views that are stack layout because at runtime has to go through all of that stuff. And this comes into startup times and jank and page loading, everything like that. So just to be aware of that. But I believe I'm almost out of time. So the last thing I want to ask, are there any questions that anyone would like to grill me on? I'm happy to take any challenge. No?
So about your beautified
Yeah.
thing. Is that going to be opinionated or flexible?
What do you mean opinionated?
For example, if you want your control to look a certain way,
Yeah.
or are you going to try to make it look like?
No. So I'm making it as generic as possible. So there's things like in an entry, if you want to have a single line underneath your entry, you can't do that without renderers. So it's making it as generic as possible and allowing the user to do as much as they possibly can with the components that I can offer. Meaning that they don't have to create a million custom renderers for simple components and just making one line custom renderers all the time. It's more of it's a look at kind of even adding animations to entry labels, and making it so that it is purely cross-platform. If you implement it on one device, you are certain it is going to work on Android as well. It's not going to be different or janky or anything like that. So it's going to take a bit of time because I want to spend some time with it. I mean, just doing the entries part of it is going to take 4 to 6 months. Me working kind of in my own time on it because I want to make it perfect. I want to make sure it's bug free, and I don't want to release a shitty dependency like 99% of Xamarin. Yeah.
So are they going to come out as separate components, or they need one?
So they're going to come out in separate components initially, and then they're eventually going to come out in one big Xamarin.Forms package. Yep.
Did you play with different HTTP handlers on platforms? There is a choice of them.
What on the native platforms?
Yeah, iOS, Android, you can improve performance.
Yeah, so this is actually quite funny that you brought this up. So in our the place I currently work is we use something called gRPC. Are you familiar with that? Familiar with gRPC? Essentially, it uses HTTP2, and it's it's a lot faster than your generic HTTP. I think it's twice or 3 times as fast. So you can perform simple get operations in 400 milliseconds, whereas I think it was benchmarked at 40 milliseconds against 1.2 seconds on a very slow network connection. You have to look it up yourself. I can't recall the figures off the top of my head. So in that case, we don't actually use any native HTTP handlers. It's just purely gRPC in its own separate project. But yeah, it's something maybe you should look into if you're looking for actual network speed optimizations. That's definitely something.
From Google, isn't it?
Yeah, Google's obviously. Yeah,
Google's RPC.
Yeah. That's it. Are there any other questions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the beautiful apps? Are you using Skia Sharp?
Yes, we are. So we're using Skia Sharp in Ziglu. I sometimes favour it over. I mean, there's a very real reason why you use Skia Sharp over a bitmap. You can kind of render your vectors and not have any overhead of file resources inside your app. I think Skia Sharp's fantastic for what it's used for, but I think it should only be used when necessary. I think sometimes I go over the top of it because it's just quite fun to use and play with. But yeah.
There's also Lottie.
Yeah, Lottie for animations, yes, specifically. But I mean, if you also have I know a JSON file isn't a big overhead to have in file size, but yeah, there's still something there. I mean, some of the things in our app we render just purely code that produces fantastic graphic.
Yeah, actually, one good advice is stay vector as much as you can.
Yeah.
If you're even if you're artists or whoever your designers,